Live from Chicago, you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's DrNiiQuartelai. Pro tip, just type in Dr. Nee. And there I am, fresh for you to follow. Be sure to also download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And then there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never, ever, ever miss an episode. Now, also these days, I appreciate you picking up my new book, Kamala, the Motherland and Me, available on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and all online retailers. We certainly appreciate all of you for making us a #1 new release on Amazon and an Amazon bestseller. Can't wait to get out across the country and meet with each and every one of you, at least as many folks as I can, to talk about this book. If you're hearing a little extra noise in the background, it's because we are live here in Chicago at the National Association of Black Journalists conference. Everybody heard all the kerfuffle just yesterday with regard to former President Trump's visit to NABJ. Well, the day after, we're here on the ground doing a pulse check, getting a sense of what some of America's leading Black journalists think about yesterday, and we'll be sure to share what we find on tomorrow's show. But have no fear, we have a great show in line for you today. But first things first, it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And doesn't get any better than this when it comes to international diplomacy. NBC News is reporting that U.S. journalist Evan Gershkovich is freed from a Russian prison as a part of a major exchange. 4 U.S. residents wrongly imprisoned in Russia, including journalist Evan Gershkovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan, were released on their way home Thursday. This is part of a major multinational prisoner exchange, the likes of which have not been seen since the Cold War. The massive deal, cut among 7 nations, involves 24 people, including 5 Germans and 7 Russian citizens in Russia, and 8 Russians imprisoned in the U.S., Germany, Slovenia, Norway, and Poland. President Joe Biden called the deal that had led to the release of the 4 U.S. detainees a feat of diplomacy and friendship. After the exchange in Turkey, all 4 U.S. detainees were en route back home Thursday afternoon, and we love to see it. They'll be traveling to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, where they're expected to be met by Biden and the vice president when they land tonight. So a little bit of good news to kick off the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. In campaign news, we know that NBC is also reporting that the Harris campaign's vetting team has met with 6 potential VP picks as the selection process nears its end. The vetting team for Vice President Harris's campaign has met with these 6 potential running mate contenders. And the 6 contenders are Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. All of them are around the same age as Harris, 59 or younger, and most have already stumped for Vice President Harris on the campaign trail. And so we shall see. We're all pressing refresh on our phones and anticipating the news, which, according to some of my sources, will come before Tuesday. And so stick around. It might even come as early as this weekend. Finally, it's about to be official. The DNC roll call begins to make Kamala Harris the nominee. Democrats will begin a virtual roll call today to vote for Vice President Harris as the party's presumptive presidential nominee. The roll call vote is scheduled to begin tonight at 9 a.m. It was scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. Eastern today, and delegates have until the deadline, which is Monday, August 5th at 6 p.m. Eastern, to return their ballots. And so the presumptive Democratic nominee to be Vice President Harris, that news will be made. The Democratic National Committee said that nearly 4,000 delegates from across the country petitioned to put Harris on the ballot for the Democratic nomination. She secured the support of 99% of participating delegates, and 84% of total delegates already submitted a signature to have Harris serve as the Democratic nominee. And so we will bring you that news as soon as it's available. When we come forward, we're leaning into the KBLA Climate Justice Initiative with Legie Thomas. She is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Metropolitan Water District. We're going to talk with this 2024 Climate Justice Partner about the work that is afoot to combat climate change, starting right at home, where our home station is. There's an apprenticeship program that we absolutely need to learn more about, in addition to getting her thoughts on the movement to combat climate change across the country. All that and more when we return. You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste, so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at Metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, live here in Chicago at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference. later this week, tomorrow, we'll be bringing you a pulse check on the tone and temperature here at the conference. But speaking of temperature, you all should know that KBLA Talk 1580 has been committed to advancing our climate justice initiative, our multi-million-dollar climate justice initiative all year. There's so many people out there that are hiding under a rock because they think that climate change does not impact Black people. Well, we're here to tell you that nothing could be further from the truth. There are a number of issues related to climate change that make a material difference in our everyday life. No issue probably more important than access to water. It's something that we really can't take for granted, something that we shouldn't take for granted. And just for people who may be a little less familiar, Southern California in particular doesn't have a lot of resources when it comes to water. In fact, about half of the water used in the region is imported from hundreds of miles away by the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, from Northern California, from the Colorado River Aqueduct and other sources. And those sources are becoming a bit more scarce with the rapid changes in climate. And so to help us make sense out of this problem, but even more importantly, what some of the solutions are to this, I'm really delighted to welcome my next guest. Lige Thomas is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nii-Quartelai. It's wonderful to be here and really looking forward to our conversation.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. And so first things first, let's set the table for our viewers and listeners that are a little less steeped in the role that water policy plays and access to clean water plays in the overall fight against climate change. Help orient us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So first, let me share a little bit about the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. So through 26 member agencies, we deliver water to 19 million residents across Southern California. And I love the way you set up this conversation because I think that there's a lot of things in life you can live without. Clean air and clean water are not one of them. Clean water and the absolute imperative around delivering clean water to our 19 million residents in a way that ensures that no one is left behind is so much a part of our DEI commitment at Metropolitan. And we are doing it through a holistic view, looking at our engagement in the diverse communities we serve, certainly in the Black community, around not only workforce development, economic opportunity, increasing procurement opportunity to historically underutilized businesses. And I'd love to talk about any and all of that. So there's a lot here. And what we really need is more people of color to really engage in conversations around climate justice. And there's a clarion call to really do this. And there's no better opportunity than now to really engage in this critical conversation.
And what do you think has been driving just sort of the resistance to leaning into some of the campaign work and really some of the movement building work combating climate change? Talk to us about some of the narratives that are out there that are just unhelpful, especially when it comes to the Black community and other diverse communities being on the front lines and getting their proper due as leaders on the front lines in the fight against climate change.
Sure. I think we know that particularly in underserved communities, this idea that you can't be what you can't see. For a long time, water has been a very insular community. And there hasn't been a lot of diversity or a lot of people, quite honestly, that look like you or I. And so we're sitting on a mountain of opportunity to change this. And I think there's a couple of different angles to this. One is there's a a huge history of distrust in public water systems. And you look at Jackson, Mississippi, you look at Flint, Michigan. Some of this is based on, we can have a whole conversation around disparate impacts of whether it's criminal justice or water. Or at Metropolitan and for Southern California, the more we can educate people, the more we can build trust in clean water. There's an enormous price that people are paying, particularly in communities of color, to buy tap water. Or, I'm sorry, to buy bottled water. And so we need to. Part of this is education about is your water safe? And the water, the 19 million residents that we serve through Southern California, we're providing access to clean water. And so there's that education piece. Secondly, there's the piece to just have more people of color in the communities that we're serving that have a seat at the table, the decision-making table, the table to have access to procurement opportunities, to have access to employment opportunities. And so our approach is really around all of that. This has to be a holistic 360-degree commitment to our communities. And so we're really looking at that. But I think there's a lot of reasons why there's distrust, lack of knowledge, and we really want to lean into to try to change that.
Just moments ago, you mentioned Jackson, Mississippi. When I just arrived a short while ago here to the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago, right there in the lobby was Mayor Lumumba of Jackson. And I asked him, how are the people of Jackson, how are they doing? And, he said that they're managing. But can you talk to us a little bit about how, the issues related to water insecurity and access to clean water in places like Jackson and places like Flint. Can you talk about how it's not a unique problem to just those cities? There are more Flints and more Jacksons across this country than I think most people would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the reality of just climate change is that the people in communities that are least able to bear the brunt of it have been disproportionately burdened with climate change. We want to lead from the front in that conversation. It's part of why we have become a partner in the climate justice conversation. But we know that we have to I often talk about co-creating solutions. So while we are, Metropolitan is a huge player in Southern California. For a long time, we've been, the 800-pound institution that no one really knew about. And so we want to change that. We want to build trust. And I don't want to neglect to talk about an immediate opportunity that's going to go live tomorrow at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, Friday, August 2nd, to really help build a pipeline into Metropolitan for diverse, qualified talent. So if you'll indulge me, I want to make sure we get this out. So we have an apprenticeship program at Metropolitan, which is 4 years fully paid training. The only requirements are high school degree or equivalent, and a valid California driver's license. Thank you for projecting that. This is 4-year fully paid training. I often talk about this as a life-changing opportunity, because what happens is if we have 15 positions open, and they are across the mechanical and electrical trades pathways, 4-year fully paid training, at the end of which you have a job that's making 6 figures, union job with great benefits. And at Metropolitan, we're public sector. So if you stay long enough, there's a pension for life. We know as we lean in, we change people's lives. We deeply engage in communities in which we serve. So much of this is about authentic engagement in the community. And again, we're approaching it not only from employment, we're also signers on the Equity and Infrastructure Pledge, which is a commitment to increase procurement opportunity to historically underutilized businesses. And this is about wealth creation. This is about investing in small businesses, in disadvantaged communities, in all of the communities in which we serve, so that we're looking at this holistically. How do we bring more education and information around clean water to the communities we serve? How do we impact economic empowerment? How do we lean in and build small businesses? So all of this is part of our holistic commitment to the community. So anyone that's tuning in, there's an immediate opportunity around our apprenticeship program. Applications will open tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and we will continue to accept applications until 750 applications are received. Let me also say one more thing about this. In the past, this is our apprenticeship program is super popular because, like I said, it's a life-changing opportunity. So in the past, you had to test at a specific location and it was limited to 3 days. This year, we have partnered with Pearson VUE Testing so that part of the testing to get into the program, you have to, so tomorrow the application's open. All of the candidates that meet minimum qualifications will be invited to test. And testing, we've eliminated traditional barriers to access for testing, partnered with Pearson VUE Testing, and you can now test at 150 locations across California, Nevada, Arizona. And if you work Monday through Friday, you can now test on Saturdays. So we've really looked at how do we broaden access to this life-changing opportunity, and how do we really invest in authentic, meaningful ways that both share knowledge about clean water, but also give people the opportunity to really shift their life outcomes.
This is extraordinary. What an extraordinary opportunity. We're here talking to the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer over at the Metropolitan Water Districts of Southern California. Operative word equity, and we can hear the equity considerations in every step of this process. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. And so for people that are watching us on YouTube, they can see the website to go get that application in. It opens tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And so, don't be late for it. More with Lee G. Thomas of the Metropolitan Water District. When we come forward, you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Former Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama will help the country mark its 250th anniversary. America 250 announced the former presidents, along with their wives, Laura Bush and Michelle Obama, will serve as its honorary national co-chairs. The nonpartisan initiative was created by Congress to plan to mark the key milestone of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 2026. America 250 is planning a number of commemorative activities that will engage all 50 states and 6 U.S. territories leading up to the anniversary. The city of Montgomery, Alabama is celebrating Black Business Month. An event called the Sips at Sunset Garden Party will be held this Saturday at the Museum of Fine Arts. It's put on by the Alabama Collective in partnership with Access Montgomery. Proceeds benefit MGM Seed, which is designed to empower and uplift small and minority-owned businesses. About 10% of all American businesses are Black-owned. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Me and the kids were always messaging. They LOL'd, I ROFL'd, but then I changed phone and the bubbles went green. But where there's a fill, there's a way. And I found a way to share what's in here. I'm tapping my heart.
WhatsApp, the place to safely send messages between different devices. Message privately with everyone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A statue of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi will be unveiled tomorrow outside Crypto.com Arena. This is the second of 3 statues that were planned to honor the Lakers legend. The final statue will be unveiled sometime next year. Kobe and Gigi will be displayed together as one statue. Kobe will be featured in a jersey with the numbers 8 and 24. Gigi wore number 2 when she was playing. She'll have that number on the statue. We're getting close to the track and field competition at the Summer Olympics in Paris. Track and field events start tomorrow with prelims in the women's 100 meters, the women's high jump, and 4x400 relays. The men's decathlon and 1,500 meters also starts tomorrow. The Dodgers are off today. They're in Oakland tomorrow for a 3-game series. The Angels are at home tonight against Colorado. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Linking social justice and climate justice all year long. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way Black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Like your style, though.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligation. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up Oscar!
Hey, LA. Today, I'm here to talk to you about Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit in LA that focuses on renewable energy. We serve communities who have been left out of the renewable energy sector. We offer paid job training, and in 13 weeks, you can become a solar installer. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry, and once you're hired in the industry, you stop at a high, medium income. That could be $20 an hour or more. 80% of our graduates get hired into the industry. Call today so you don't be left out at 323-861-0105 or gridalternatives.org, gridalternatives.org.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's cal-cruise-news.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Find a righteous rage, and don't be afraid to say what you see. For KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, joining you from the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago. Really delighted to be in conversation with Lee G. Thomas. She is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the Metropolitan Water District. And I'm delighted to talk to you because it's people like you, Liji, that make the KBLA Climate Justice Initiative real. We have launched a multi-million-dollar initiative to amplify the voices and solutions around combating climate change. And water policy is right there in the mix. Here at KBLA, we're about more than just talk. We're about solutions. A lot of people can talk about what's happening in Flint, what's happening in Jackson, and too many other places across the country. Not everybody can talk to an expert like you who is operationalizing the change. And so thank you for being here with us today.
Of course.
And so, we've been talking about this apprenticeship program that you've launched. And for our leaders, learners, and listeners just joining us, there is the apprenticeship program of all apprenticeship programs. The application opens August 2nd. That's tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. There are about 15 positions that are available. They're going to be accepting applications until they get to about the 750 mark. And so log on early and submit. This is a paid apprenticeship and internship program that can lead to a six-figure job opportunity. And if you stay in it long enough, that includes a pension. It's a solid deal. But I've got to ask you, Liji, as the Chief Diversity and Equity Inclusion Officer, what's your reaction to folks out there that may look at these interns and apprentices as the diversity hire? We've certainly heard in our politics of late, but historically, folks that have intended to play small. The folks among us that happen to share identities from traditionally marginalized groups that get into roles and positions of leadership, they somehow seem to see us as less able, less capable. What's your reaction to the uptick in that kind of line of attack?
Yeah. So, it's there's a lot of noise around the diversity conversation. And let's be clear, it's being driven by our super polarizing politics. And those of us who do this work know that this work is all about casting a wide net for talent. And talent comes in every race, color, sexual orientation, gender. So there's the noise, and to be clear, this is a well-orchestrated attack on DEI efforts. Whether it's the Fearless Fund or, what you're hearing about people being DEI hires. A lot of us underrepresented talent will say what the reality of it is, you have to be twice as good to get half as far. So let's be clear that it is politics that's driving this conversation. What we seek to do in our DEI commitment is an authentic commitment to eliminate barriers. I often say in DEI work, the work is about eliminating all barriers to full human potential. And that's in our recruitment efforts. That's in it. That's mitigating any potential bias in HR systems. And so this is really just it is a narrative. I really think what we need to do is control the narrative and take the narrative back from this very orchestrated attack that's going on. It doesn't have credence. And what we are about, and I often say the number one rule in hiring or recruitment from a DEI perspective is that best person always gets the job. That best person reflects the broad diversity of the communities that we serve. And so it is, and this is about winning the war for talent. This is about building a pipeline of talent to and a cadre of leaders to really take water into the next 100 years of Metropolitan's existence. And so it's noise. It's noise that is not rooted in, we have to understand that as we design for the margins, as we look at who's been left out, and we address structural barriers, we make it better for everybody. And so, you think about, ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and putting ramps in buildings, federally mandated now. Initially thought about that for people in wheelchairs, or people who had individuals with disabilities. Well, guess what? It's made it better for any. If you're holding a heavy box and you're trying to enter a building, it's made it better for you. So this idea of just a DEI hire, that this is an optics game, could not be further from the truth. In fact, real DEI efforts is all about advancing meritocracy and casting a wide net for talent and ensuring a future where there are no barriers to full human potential. And that's exactly what we're doing at Metropolitan.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing, and we feel it and we see it. The commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion at Metropolitan Water District, it feels real. We're over here kicking the tires, and it's the real deal. Lee G. Thomas, the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, is also the real deal. Look, I've got to also ask you this question. We know that right now we're all enjoying the Paris Olympics, and in 4 years, the Olympics is going to be making its way to Los Angeles. Talk to us about how today's interns and apprentices, and tomorrow's leaders in this very important infrastructure work. Talk to us about how Metropolitan Water is seeking to be a model for the country and the world in the work that you're planning as we are on the cusp of getting the next Olympics.
Yeah, thank you for that question. There is everything's either a problem or an opportunity. We're awash in opportunity. You mentioned the Olympics, 4 years. We have to start planning now, and we have to start. No one person will solve the issues around equity and infrastructure, or hiring and recruitment, or again, I talk about all of these things because it is a holistic commitment to the community. But we're not only, again, I talked about erasing barriers, traditional barriers to the apprenticeship program. That's one aspect of several things we're doing. We're also signers on, I mentioned, the Equity and Infrastructure Pledge. And this is a commitment to increase procurement opportunity to historically underutilized businesses. The Olympics in LA in 4 years means that there's going to be billions of dollars worth of procurement opportunity that is coming down the pike, that disadvantaged business enterprises, women-owned, minority-owned businesses can get a share of that contracting opportunity. And so that's another part of our commitment, is the equity and infrastructure, and really ensuring that we're also looking at traditional barriers to contracting opportunities for government contracting, and really leaning in meaningful ways. We're looking now through the Equity and Infrastructure Pledge about reciprocity. And I don't want to get too nerdy here with viewers, but this is basically, if you have your certification as a woman-owned or minority-owned business, DBE, then you don't have to go through another process with another government agency. We're able to recognize, eliminate barriers, streamline the process, so you're better able to compete for procurement opportunity. This is going to be really important with the billions of dollars worth of procurement opportunity that's coming down the pike as we prepare for the Olympics. This is another area in our DEI commitment that Metropolitan is leaning into.
When we come forward, one last thought from Lee G. Thomas, the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. I'm here at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago, and we know that narrative so often drives policy. When we come forward, I want to give Lee G. an opportunity to make a pitch to America's journalists. What should we be covering that we might be missing when it comes to water policy and water infrastructure, and the role that this work plays in combating climate change? You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
Always night pads are designed for a perfect night's sleep. So you can do your bear hugging a pillow thing, your free falling starfish thing, your burritoed in a blanket with the AC blasting thing. While Always night pads with rapid dry do their we've got your back with fast absorbency and up to 10 hours of protection thing. So while your period's doing its own thing, Always lets you do your sleep thing. Shop for Always in-store or online, wherever you get your pads.
Psst. Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
I am delighted to be in conversation with Lee G. Thomas, the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Metropolitan Water District. Before the break, Lee G., I wanted to give you an opportunity to make a pitch to America's journalists, particularly America's Black journalists, as I'm here at the NABJ conference in Chicago. What are we missing when it comes to covering water policy and water infrastructure in the fight against climate change?
You know, there's an idea that the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. And I think that the story of water, rebuilding trust in water, is and the absolute critical water access to clean water makes everything else possible about life and living a quality life. And so what I would say to the journalists, I know it is a challenging time. You're going to get attacked if you start telling the truth. But I also think that the only time you're not going to be attacked is if you're not really doing anything we're talking about. So lean in a bold and powerful way about telling the truth. Let's do it in partnership. Let's talk about water and its importance and the ways in which institutions like Metropolitan are really leaning in, co-creating solutions, advancing economic opportunity. And let's really so much of climate justice is related to social justice, clean and accessible drinking water. Those are the things that are top of mind for Metropolitan. And so let's, in partnership, tell the story. Let's do it in a bold way, and let's do it in a way that really helps us create a more inclusive and equitable world where all of us truly belong and have access to clean water, economic opportunity, and wealth creation, so we can build lives that are fulfilling and meaningful with nobody left behind.
Our thanks to Lee G. Thomas, the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer over at Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Thank you for being just a powerful demonstration for California, for this country, and the globe. We want to remind everybody that this apprenticeship and internship program opens its doors online at 8 a.m. Pacific. That is 11 a.m. Eastern time, right? It's 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Go ahead and apply for this paid apprenticeship and internship program that really is opening the doors to so much more. This is important work. Building up our water infrastructure is going to be critically important to our shared future. Thank you, Lee G, and your entire team for all the work you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now it's time for the quiet part out loud, and what to watch at the eulogy of former Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. We know that Representative Lee meant so much to our community. She was a fierce fighter on the front lines for so many years. And in case you didn't know, she recently lost her battle with pancreatic cancer. We know that Vice President Harris is in Texas paying tribute to the Congresswoman. And paying tribute to her in one of the most extraordinary ways. We know that the eulogy is being given for Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. It is one of the rare moments where we're seeing the Vice President as sort of consoler in chief, or consoler in chief to be. We know that the remarks will speak to her respect for the late Congresswoman who died from pancreatic cancer in July, as I mentioned, but it may also reveal how Harris would handle the important role that presidents play in times of national trauma and personal grief as consoler in chief. Campaigns normally test candidates' abilities to stir and rally crowds or debate their opponents. But in this election year, every speech is an audition. And as NPR reports, in her compressed campaign, which was launched less than 2 weeks ago, if you all can remember that, Harris has focused on portraying herself as a fearless prosecutor. And the eulogy will demonstrate her comfort level with showing a more personal side, as well as giving a type of address that's more traditionally delivered by what some people say male leaders. And so we will all be paying extra close attention. I can tell you that when I traveled to Africa with the Vice President, there were a number of moments where I saw a more emotive Vice President Harris. And over the years, I've seen an emotive Vice President Harris. But as somebody who is on the cusp of becoming the presumptive Democratic nominee, the microscope is turned all the way up. And so I'm sure people will be watching and listening, as will we. Let me finish with this. You've heard me on the show talk often about my great aunt, Aunt Slim. May she rest in peace. She died of Alzheimer's some years ago. And every time I see a headline about Alzheimer's research or a new study about dementia, I think of her, and I think of so many of you, our leaders, learners, and listeners, who are also family caregivers. A lot of you have set your careers aside. You've set other personal ambitions aside in order to show up for the people that you love. In doing one of the most loving things you can do is caring for folks who may not be able to care for themselves. And so When I see headlines like this, I think of Aunt Slim. I think of each and every one of you. And The Guardian is reporting that almost half of dementia cases could be prevented or delayed, according to this new study. The number of people living with dementia globally is forecast to nearly triple to 153 million by 2050. And researchers warn that this presents a rapidly growing threat to health and social care systems. Global health and social costs linked to dementia exceed $1 trillion a year, according to research. So in this seismic report that was published recently, 27 of the world's leading dementia experts concluded that far more cases could be avoided or delayed than previously thought, addressing 14 modifiable risk factors, starting in childhood and continuing throughout life, could prevent or delay 45% of dementia cases, even as people are living longer. The findings were presented at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference right here in the US. And according to sources, the lead author of the research, Professor Gil Livingston, said that it was increasingly clear that there was much more that millions of people could and should do to reduce risk of dementia. Speaking from the conference in Philadelphia, Livingston said, quotes, many people are around the world believe that dementia is inevitable, but it's not. Their report concludes that they can hugely increase the chances of not developing dementia or pushing back on its onset. Based on the latest available evidence, the report adds that two risk factors that were associated with 9% of dementia cases, and about 7% of cases are linked to high, low density lipoprotein or bad cholesterol in midlife from about the age of 40, while 2% of cases were attributable to untreated vision loss later in life. We know that people at all stages of life, from children to the elderly, can take steps to reduce their exposure. The potential for prevention, it's high. That's the headline, everybody. And through exercise and through managing our diet, we can fight back against this thing. Yeah, genes are a part of the equation, but they're not everything. They're not everything. And so I wanted to wrap up today's show with a little bit of empowering news, because so often when we hear about risk factors for this disease or that disease, we don't talk enough about prevention and what we can do, right? All these things are not inevitable. And so we'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village that helps us to produce a More Perfect Union each and every day, whether I'm in studio or I'm on the road, as I am today at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference. My thanks to our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, to our sound engineer extraordinaire who works his magic, Miles Lowe, to our show producer who's also working his own kind of magic, Robert Battles, and to our podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you've been listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Go out and pick up the book, Kamala, Motherland, and Me. It is required reading, not just for this election cycle, but beyond. I'll see you tomorrow.